So, that was really interesting, guys. My Hero Academia Season 7, Episode 4. Starting things off, I just want to tell you how I kind of feel before we even get to like any content to talk about. Um, this is kind of one of the slowest episodes I've seen in a while for any type of shonen in modern day history. Um, it was emotional, like don't get me wrong. This, if you want to know something without me spoiling anything, it's emotional. That's one thing I could say about it. But besides that, we're not really getting a lot of important stuff. We're kind of getting towards it. We're setting some type of plot lines. We're getting ready to get to the meat and bone. And this is just what I've heard. We're getting ready to go into like the finale of this series pretty much. Like this war is going to be huge. It's going to be big, and I think it's possibly like this season and next. We don't have a lot of time. So these remaining episodes, it's gonna come up to whether this series is gonna be great or not. I mean, it's already been labeled as like a mediocre anime overall, and like as a manga, it's been rated mediocre by a lot of the fans and kind of shunned. Anyway, let's get into the actual main bones of the content. That's just me babbling about that. At the end, we'll do the review process, which is just my thought. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, Oriyama, he was a bad boy. All for One basically gave him a quirk. He was quirkless, and he was threatened. And whenever he was threatened, he had to do these things for him. And what he did is he basically put everyone's lives at risk during the whole incident where they're having the training camp. And yeah, that led up to a lot of bad things. And it led up to this. So we figured him out. He got, he just got caught. Deku caught him, but also Girl. That's what I'm calling her. I'm sorry. Sometimes names come in, sometimes they don't. That's just a heads up, guys. As I've always said, can't remember them all always, but when it's important, you gotta go for it. So besides that, this episode they're like talking about a plan, but his ears were plugged because he can't know the plan because well him and his parents can't know because as you know his parents were a part of the whole quirk thing and yeah, so there's a plan. We don't know quite sure what it is, but we basically know that he's gonna risk himself in order to get on the inside of it. That way they can get an advantage because they know they're never going to be able to get a direct head on for All for One. So that's going to be pretty big. And yeah. Anyway, moving on up, we had this little bit about Lydia and Deku needing new suit parts, a little fixer upper, and we get to meet an old timer friend and some other characters. So Hatsumi, of course, always exploding stuff, breaking stuff. We get to meet more of the students. So these are people that can't really be the heroes, they're the supporters. And the supporters are what you would call a little bit lamer, but in one way they're kind of cooler than some of the heroes. Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but UA, you got some weak heroes. I mean, like, in some of them, they're like, how is that a hero ability? Like, shooting poison? Isn't that like a killer ability, like a villain power? I don't know, that's just me rambling on. Anyway, we get to meet some cool looking people. They seem pretty ordinary. I wonder if they all have quirks, but I think, well, no, I think they all have to have quirks to actually go to UA, so I'm not quite sure. I'm just wondering. This episode did make me wonder one thing. Will Deku get a sidekick? Will everyone else in class get a sidekick? I have been wondering that from this episode. So, that'd be good to know. I don't know. It just made me think about it. There was a bit whenever he got his new gloves, because of course that was the thing that was messed up. He got hit in the face with a glove, and his face was puckered up for quite a bit longer than it should have. And I'm just like, why would you put that in there? That doesn't make sense. Because I already know the manga did not have that like that. That's kind of, I know it's trying to be funny, And I gotta say, well, you tried your best, but I didn't really think it was funny. I thought it was just kind of dumb. Maybe it was something from there. I don't know. I haven't read it. Going on, they kind of got Obama woman, giant woman, the one that everyone has the crush on, that turns big. Yeah, she was giving him a little lowdown about, the front army and what's to come. And yeah, they've been training and doing their thing, so the class is just going at it, getting ready for the 1 week of terrifying war. After all that, we're at the hospital, and Oriyama is basically getting tested to see if he is telling the truth. And of course, Eraser is the one that has to do the process as the teacher. He's like, I'll never expel you. And Oriyama's like, he's like at borderline suicidal levels. He's like depresso mode. I guess that's the best way to put it. I don't like to say like suicide, but he just feels like he might as well die because he thinks that he's just gonna get killed anyway for betraying. Because if you go back, there was someone that got blown up for betraying, and yeah, that's kind of what led to him thinking that and his parents. So it kind of shows you why he's in the situation that he's in. And we go on, they're about to follow this plan. All Might was talking about it. They're talking about Dobby and all the other leaders, which basically means Toga and all them. I guess they're the little leaders of the group. Yeah, they are technically. They're like sergeants and so on. So what they're gonna have to do is separate them, and we're gonna get all these like really cool battles, probably from different people in UA, and hopefully it's matchups that are good for each other. I know the last big battle that was like crazy, but this one should be a little more straightforward and not as much chaotic. I think the big thing was distance, working on teamwork, and of course we already know the big three. You already know. I mean, like, do I really have to say more about who like he pairs the best with? We already know. I don't even have to say it. If you watch and you got here, you know. So that's the big thing. Besides that, really nothing else. If you watch end credits, spoiler. This is just a spoiler. Make sure you watch past the end credits. We go back to the guy that could use his voice. He was using like curse speech. He's back. I guess he's about to go with them. I don't think he's a betrayer. I think we're thought to be thinking he was some type of betrayer, but I don't think he is. We still never know. We still never know. Because technically we found the betrayer. So yeah, at this point I'm just babbling on about that. But I believe this is an alright episode. But not a lot here. Just on the emotional spectrum. Oriyama, he really gets you feeling a little bit this episode. He doesn't exactly get me feeling because I'm just gonna be honest, he's just not the coolest character, but I can see why people like him. He's a character that felt kind of lighthearted, but I thought of him as like a kind of like spoiled brat type, preppy a bit. But this is my opinion, and it can change from person to person. But I do gotta say it's emotional, and they did great at bringing that to the audience. So I gotta say this episode for me, at least, it's like a good 6.8. If I'm gonna have to be honest, I was gonna say 6.5 because I just really didn't enjoy it, and that's my honest opinion. But if I was given like a chart and I had to be real as it could be and give it a little leeway, I say a nice 6.8. I think it somewhat passes, but it's not as bad as some things are. Um, yeah. Tell me how you guys feel about this episode. I still think we're coming to the end game and they have to fill it up a little bit because we can't move too fast and we can't move too slow because they want to kind of stretch it. Gotta get that money. Gotta live up the hype though. We gotta get hype. You can't make the money if you don't got hype. So that's the thing, and I trust the process of what they've been putting down. They have still done some great things even after all the mediocre, like all right stuff. that was written and animated. They didn't really have control of that because it's just how the manga is. And it just so happens that it's superheroes. A lot of people are not into that. That's part of the reason that I feel like a lot of people are turned off about it. But that's got to do with something else. Uh, we'll talk about that way later on whenever this season ends. Then we can get to that. Anyway, guys, tell me how you feel about this episode and tell me, do you think he deserved to be in jail like that? Do you think they should just free Oriyama? Do you think he should just be let go? I'm gonna be like this. I think he belongs in there. I want to trust him. I'm sorry. I'm just like being honest. If he is working for the big bad, all for one or one for all, you know what I mean? All for one. Sorry. Sometimes I'll go back and forth on it because one takes all. But yeah, I do think that I would lock him up for sure. Anyway, guys, stay safe. Peace.